Good afternoon and welcome to everyone. We are so pleased to have you join us today for our first in a long installment of upcoming federal contracting education sessions and matchmaking series presented by the NGLCC and our outstanding partners in our Federal Inclusion Task Force. A few housekeeping reminders. First, hi, I'm Jonathan Lovett, Senior Vice President of the NGLCC. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm thrilled to welcome you here today. A few housekeeping reminders that we'll be taking questions and answers throughout the conversation today. Please use the chat or Q&A box, and we'll be able to assist you with questions throughout the programming, and especially during our Q&A period at the end of the program. We are also recording live, and we'll be streaming this on our website as well as on Facebook Live across the days ahead for anyone who might have missed this. And if you have any questions throughout the programming specifically for any of the presenters, feel free to reach out to me through the chat window. We'll get that filtered to the right person and can always help set up post-event times if needed. It's my pleasure to introduce some of the folks who made today possible from the NGLC Federal Contracting Task Force: Melissa Poley at Northrop Grumman, Brian Johnson at Leidos, and Pat McHugh from Lockheed Martin. We're so grateful to have their support, as well as many of their other outstanding NGLCC corporate partners in helping connect our LGBT business enterprises to federal contracting now and in the future. Melissa, Brian, Pat, welcome, and want to encourage you to say hello if you'd like. I know we're all busy and multitasking throughout the days, but we're glad to have you with us on the conversation today.
Hi there.
Hey, Pat.
We hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you. We couldn't have gotten this far without you, so we're so appreciative. And it's my pleasure to introduce our primary presenter for today, Lisa Wood, who's the statewide director of the Virginia PTAC, or the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. Totally a rock star hero in helping suppliers navigate the tricky and complex world of government contracting. So we're thrilled to have her here with us. And I also want to acknowledge members of our team who are on the line, our Senior Vice President Anthony Wisniewski, and our VP of Corporate Relations, Greg Schimber from NGLCC, as well as my colleague, Jason Vita, who's the Senior Manager of Corporate Relations and helping field questions and answers today, as well as helping connect all of our outstanding corporate partners to each of our phenomenal affiliates and suppliers on the line. So Lisa, I'm going to turn this over to you to get started, and we will get rolling.
Okay, hopefully everyone can hear me. Am I unmuted? Yay!
There,
okay.
You're unmuted and good to go, and you've got control of the deck. Take it.
Oh, I'm in control. I like that. So today's agenda, we're going to be going over some basics of government contracting. This will help you decide whether or not you want to actually jump into this arena to grow your business. So we're going to discuss some getting ready for government contracting, some understanding of socioeconomic certifications, which have just recently been updated with the SBA. We're going to talk about some competitive and market intelligence and how you can use that to find opportunities. We're going to go through FedBizOps, which is, along with BetaSAM, the newest and best way for you to find opportunities according to the government, but it's cost us all a little bit of reconsidering how we go about helping clients find opportunities. We're also going to look at capability statements, which is a really great way to market your business to the federal government. You're going to have people asking you for a capability statement. It's the best way for you to show yourself and show what you're all about. So we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive in that. And then marketing to the government, which is pretty specific. And I get that information right from buyers. They tell me what they want to see from you. So that's going to be a good little bit of lessons there. And then we're going to go into some Q&A. So please don't be afraid to ask questions. There are no stupid questions when it comes to government contracting. Every question is important, especially to you and others who will learn from the questions you ask. So please don't be shy. Next slide, please.
And Lisa, I'll pick up this one just because we've got a few new suppliers with us, as well as new members, various affiliates and corporate partners on the line. So the quick view of the NGLCC as your certification partner in the LGBT business community is that we are the business voice of the LGBT community. We are your link between business owners, corporations, and of course, government agencies, as we're discussing today. We're connected through a network of more than 60 affiliates in the United States and across the world, now operating in nearly 20 countries. We are the certifying body used in both the public and private sector. Our LGBTBE certification is the gold standard that is used nationwide. And just this week, in any other year, we would be together in Las Vegas for the International Business and Leadership Conference, the largest LGBT business gathering in the world. But much of that programming has been shifted online, including our Webinar Wednesdays, our Sip and Pitch Fridays, multiple matchmakers and community conversations that are going to continue now and through the end of the year at the very least. So we encourage you to get involved with us at NGLCC.org so you can get on all of our mailing lists and be informed of all of the great opportunities coming up. We mentioned the LGBTBE certification, which Lisa will explain how that can connect to larger government opportunities, but in the context of city, state, and corporate procurement, it is your key in the door. A lot of people ask, I'm certified, now what? This is a great example. You're here learning about how to put your certification to work for you, how it can get you into the doors you've always wanted to get into, and how it can help leverage your unique business to get ahead, get opportunities. And it's so much more than contracting. Your certification opens up doors like scholarships, educational opportunities, and even access to capital, which of course every small business owner needs. And we have programs that are dedicated just to certified business owners and the communities that work with them. And before Lisa jumps into the grand picture of federal contracting, we want to remind you that while we're working towards full federal inclusion of our certification across the government, your certification works in the public sector for you right now in any of these locations that you see, as well as many more that are coming out soon. These city, state, and municipal agency organizations are working directly with the NGLCC and our local affiliates to make sure that your certification allows you to bid on municipal contracts, as well as take advantage of city, state, and county education and access to capital programs that can help your business thrive wherever you are. All right, Lisa, take it away. How do we do business with the very daunting government structure ahead of us?
Oh, not to be scared.
Okay, good.
It's okay. You've got lots of people out there who want to help you. Oh, we just lost some connectivity here. Hold on.
We hear you. You're good.
I can't see the slides. There they are. Okay, we're back. Yay. So who is the government customer? Well, the government customer is the Department of Defense and all branches of the military, federal agencies, prime contractors, who are the big boys that deal directly with the government agencies. Some businesses are happy just to be a sub to a prime. It saves a lot of paperwork and bureaucracy. Let them have to deal with the government. There's also state and local, and that's a good segue into government contracting. Some people hear government contracting and they think it's just the federal government, but that's not true. Your own municipality has opportunities out there for you. The state has opportunities for you. So make sure you're exploring all the areas where you can potentially do business. Next slide. So to get started, and you know, this is really important stuff because I see it all the time. And that's why I've created this presentation, because some people miss the necessary beginning steps to lay the proper foundation for government contracting. So first you have to ask yourself, do you owe any back taxes? Do you owe any student loans? Like, are you in default on student loans? Legal judgments with the government, like IRS. Do you have a business checking account? How about the government's excluded parties list? No one ever wants to get on that. And are you, of course, default on student loans? So these are important things that you need to review and ask yourself, okay, I'm clean, I'm ready to take the next step. Next slide. So past performance. So the federal government has instructed my program to not counsel firms who have not yet established themselves. So they're brand new. They don't have customers. They've never had a contract, but they've got a great idea and they think they have a good plan to start a business and move forward. So we always tell people, hey, visit your SBDC first. That's the Small Business Development Centers, which are an offshoot of the SBA. They'll help you get your business up and running, and they have the basic fundamentals of how to prepare you to take the next step into government contracting. So always visit your SBDC if you are a brand new startup. So past performance is either public or private. So if you've been contracting with people in the commercial world, it's not governmental. It's just good, solid contracts and customers. That is wonderful past performance. And we want to see that. That means you've been in business long enough to establish yourself and build a reputation. You also have some revenue coming in on a regular basis and have several years in business. Now, I have seen exceptions to this rule, and we do a case-by-case analysis. I've seen people hit the ground running right away, but the government really wants to see you have at least 2 years under your belt to make sure that you're getting it. But once again, there are exceptions to the rule. So that 2 years of successful past performance, it's a go-by, but it's not a hard rule. It's something that we look into and make an evaluation. So next slide, please. Strong financials. Can't stress this enough. You have to be able to have the ability to pay your suppliers, pay your help, bring on whether you want 1099s or subcontractors, keep the lights on, pay yourself, show some profit, because if you do not have the strong financials needed to perform on a government contract, you could lose everything. So please make sure that you have that discussion, once again, with the SBDC. They help with access to capital, and they help you come up with a good plan on how to have lines of credit available or cash assets. Just so if you're in the middle of a government contract and you're not going to be paid for a while, you want to make sure that you're able to keep the business running effectively. Next slide.
Lisa, I want to ask, just pointing you to a question in our Q&A box. Michael Hudson asked, how will lack of revenue during COVID-19 affect this 2-year of revenue requirement? It's a great question I know a lot of business owners are asking about. Would you like to take that now, or should we save that for the end?
Well, during COVID-19, yeah, we've got some issues going on, and the SBA has some wonderful programs to help offset the lack of revenue coming in because of the pandemic. And the government has actually implemented some programs to ease the burden on vendors. And that's a separate conversation to have with us. I actually addressed that in other PowerPoint lessons. So please just reach out to me and we can have a conversation on the side about it. But your SBDC is also a great source. We are not permitted to counsel on finance or access to capital. At SBDC, they are permitted to do that. We're only allowed to counsel you on government contracting, but we can refer you to the right resource partners who aren't going to charge you money. Next slide.
Thanks, Lisa. And just as a follow-up to Michael and everyone else who has a similar question, we'll go into depth on that in our part 2 of this series, which is, I am interested in federal contracting, now what? So stay tuned for some more answers on that.
Strategic partnerships. So that is an important aspect of government contracting, because the government loves to see teaming and joint ventures. So you might be really good in one area of expertise, and you look at a solicitation and you think, hey, I can do part of that, but I can't do the other part. However, I have somebody I know who is really good at that other part that I can't do. I'm going to team with them, and we're going to be able to bid on this opportunity. So that's what teaming and joint venture and partnerships are all about. So don't discount an opportunity because you're not ready yet, or you can only perform half the work. There are processes in place to help you team with somebody, and a way to find these people, that of course is another presentation, but participation in outreach such as this and networking events that, remember when we used to be able to go to networking events live and exchange business cards and shake people's hands? That's coming back. But in the meantime, participating in this is still very, very good. It doesn't take the place of a handshake or business card exchange, but it's a start. There's also other areas to go, such as SBA Subnet, to find subcontracting opportunities. So there could be more conversation on this moving forward. Next slide. A well-ordered office space. And this is my own pet peeve, because I have people come to me and they want me to go through their SAM with them, or their dynamic small business search. They want me to help them with their 8A or hub zone, and they don't have anything available. They don't have their documents. They don't know their MPIN. They forgot their password. Somebody left and took all the information with them, and the owner doesn't have a copy of the information. So please, a well-ordered office space. Hopefully the resources to have an admin to keep things organized, because you're busy doing things like finding business. Approved accounting system, and that doesn't mean something specific. It's just you have an approved accounting system in place like QuickBooks and you know how to use it, or you've got a really good accountant. I always recommend please get an accountant to keep all this straight, because those financials come in very handy later on, especially if you are applying for 8A or the brand new WOSB, EGWOSB. You need to have these financials on hand to submit to somebody for analysis. A written disaster recovery plan, meaning if you're in the middle of a government contract and you get flooded or burned or blown away, what plan do you have in place to complete that contract? So have it written. Somebody just might ask for it, and you don't want to have to create one of these in the 11th hour. And that goes for, of course, the SOP, standard operating procedures, quality assurance, quality control. They may ask for this. Have one written. You all know in your head how you would proceed in a case like that. You know how it all works in your business. Write it down. Write these processes down. Keep them in a safe place. Store them in the cloud or store them off-site. So if your business does unfortunately get destroyed or something bad happens or you get hacked, all that information isn't lost. Also, key, very critical, careful documentation of username, passwords, and codes, because you will be asked for these over and over again, and you might not think it's important, but it is, especially your MPIN for SAM. 8 times out of 10, I'm going through a SAM and nobody knows their MPIN number. And because nobody tells you to save that, the government doesn't say, hey, make sure you hang on to that MPIN number. But those are just critical codes that you need to write down and keep a file. Keep a government contracts file. Have a folder for SAM, a folder for dynamic small business search, a folder for any socioeconomic certifications that you're pursuing. You've got to keep track of all of this, because it's going to come in handy later on, and it will save you a world of hurt if something has to be changed. Next slide.
Well, Lisa, before we jump on, 2 really good questions that just popped up here. And again, you can tell me if you want to do now or save for a little bit later. But somebody asked, what's an MPIN and how do I get one?
An MPIN is a code that you come up with. It's 9 characters, letters and numbers, and they have you create that when you start your SAM profile. So in order to do federal contracting, you have to go through the System of Award Management, which is SAM. And please don't try to do this yourselves. I have a team of people who will help you through this, and we do not charge you. Remember, this is free service for you to get a DUNS number, an EIN, and a cage code through SAM. So your MPIN is a code you'll develop. So without that MPIN, if you try to be a WOSB or EDWOSB, the SBA is going to ask you for your MPIN. If you don't have it, you're dead in the water. You got to go back and figure out, where is that MPIN? So the MPIN is part of the SAM registration process.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And we'll make sure those links to both how to get in touch with you and how to begin the SAM process are included. It is, one of our attendees just said, that's a lot of acronyms here. And for anyone who's worked in the LGBT, BE, MW, BE, LMNOP space, you know that this is nothing new, so we'll help you keep track of it. One other quick question that we got, Lisa, was what types of accounting systems are approved? So, and you may not be able to tell us all of them, but we could also help point to those resources when we do our wrap out.
An approved accounting system is just one where you are able to track your profit and loss, your financials, your accounts receivable, accounts payable, be able to pull any report required that is part of an accounting practice, like we'll say an income statement, going back to my years of taking accounting. So an approved accounting system would be like QuickBooks, but you've got to have the ability to use it effectively, know how to use that QuickBooks. So it's just one that utilizes generally accepted accounting principles, and that's GAAP, GAAP. And that's what the government looks at, because they want to make sure that you are keeping careful financials. And once again, those financials become very important when you go to apply for socioeconomic certification. So having an accountant is really in your best interest, because that's a very specific area of expertise. And if you're busy running a business, it's difficult to also keep track of the books as well. But if you have a good bookkeeper or admin who is able to do that, that works. But remember that acronym GAAP, that's Generally Accepted Accounting Principles.
That's great, Lisa, and a good excuse to remind everyone who's tuning in that the NGLCC supplier database, as well as your local affiliate chambers database on their homepage, could be a great place to find accountants who are specialized in helping diverse-owned businesses track what's needed for government contracting. So remember to check with your own vendor pool and your own communities first.
Right, and also with accountants, make sure that accountant is familiar with government contracting.
Absolutely. Speaking of.
So the government language, acronyms. Yes, there are a lot of acronyms, and we try not to speak in acronyms, but sometimes the acronym is the word. Like, for example, NAICS. We don't say North American Industry Classifications. We don't say that. We say NAICS. So it's just the word. It becomes the word for it. So back to NAICS, PSC codes, all the unique codes, a cage code, there's just a DUNS number, and there's just so many out there, but know what that means and know when you don't have to actually say it all the way out. You don't have to spell it out. It's just a NAICS code is a NAICS code, and that's an industry code that you select that identifies what you do. A PSC code is product service code, and that is a code for what the government buys. And those are all things that you actually enter into SAM when you're creating your SAM profile. Also, know databases and be able to research all that are applicable. And moving forward, there'll be training on how to access these databases and direct links to them. Know the FAR. The FAR is the Federal Acquisition Regulation body of knowledge. It is the procurement Bible. So federal people, federal procurement, all go by the FAR. And everything is in there. And it's easy to search the FAR. It's in acquisition.gov. You can go in and search for anything you might want to know about small business, bid protests, teaming and joint ventures. It's all covered in the FAR. You also need to know your thresholds, your limitations. What is the way that you would grow out of your small status? That's a threshold. Thresholds for size are based on your NAICS code. It's either by how many people you have on hire or how much revenue you bring in. So know those thresholds. There's also thresholds for socioeconomic goaling. For example, economically disadvantaged, women-owned, cannot exceed $750,000 in net worth. The same for 8A, they just changed it. It used to be 250,000 and now they've raised it to 750,000. So that's a threshold. Those thresholds can be found in the FAR. And then small business programs. Know which ones you qualify for. The SBA's website is a wealth of information on socioeconomic programs. If you qualify, then go through the process of getting certified, because then you're competing in a smaller pool. And the government has goals that they have to meet, and we'll be going over those later. Also know what a procurement instrument is, or procurement vehicle, such as the GSA schedule, which is the General Service Agency. It is a schedule that helps you buy. It's like a catalog that the government uses that you can get on and sell off that catalog. And then there's BPOs, blanket purchase orders, and that's like a 5-year contract. We'll say, for example, a BPO for snow removal for the state. It's a 5-year. So you would be on that blanket purchase order and it would have a maximum of make $10,000 a year. You wouldn't exceed that, and they would call you as needed. Some people have a BPO and never get called. Some people have a GSA schedule and never sell anything. So you have to make sure that these vehicles are right for you so you don't have false expectations. Then websites. Can't stress this one enough. Every prime and agency has one. They are a wealth of information for you. They have small business offices, small business liaison officers. They have information on how to do business with them. So you're never going to approach an agency cold. You're going to go to their website. You're going to find out everything you can about them. What are their pain points? What problems do they have to solve? What are they forecasting for future procurement? You have to build a body of knowledge on them by utilizing their websites. Websites such as DLA and GSA, DLA, Defense Logistics Agency, and GSA, that we explained before, they have enough information in there that you can be very easily educated on how to do business with them and how to move forward with registering on their site. Next slide. So getting started, first thing you need to do is an EIN. That's an employee identification number, and you get that through the IRS, irs.gov. Make sure you're in the right spot. And it is free. If someone's asking you to pull out a credit card, you are in the wrong place. Don't pay for any of this, please. I can't stress this enough. People end up paying like $500, up to $10,000 to get this stuff done. So you have to make sure that you're utilizing your partners who will do it at no cost. After you get your EIN, you can go to the Dun & Bradstreet site, but only up until the end of December, where it's going to turn into UEI, which is Unique Entity Identification, and will be powered by Ernst & Young. So last year, Dun & Bradstreet lost their contract with the government. I don't know if they wanted to or if they were just ushered out, but you can get a DUNS number up until the end of this year. After that, you will go to Ernst & Young and get a UEI. Now that DUNS number, if you already have one, don't worry. It's okay. It's going to automatically transition into UEI. Now, the government has promised us it will be a smooth and easy transition. So we have our fingers crossed that they know what they're doing with that. Then once you have your EIN and you're done, so you're going to register in SAM. And that is a process. You're going to go into a login.gov and create a login for yourself. They're going to ask you questions with your secret answers. It's like the secret handshake. Please, please, please do not do this yourself. There are a lot of tricky areas in there, and it's easy to get turned around, and it's hard to fix it once the mistakes are made. So please reach out to us and we will help you through this process. And at the tail end of SAM, there is the dynamic small business search. And a lot of people miss this because they don't really tell you what this is and how important it is, but it's part of the SBA. So you have to actually go into a different area at the end of SAM and go into the dynamic small business search. It is your free advertising to government. This is where government goes to find business and find talent and find firms. You're going to create a capability narrative, which is a little like elevator speech of what you do. You're going to come up with keywords that are search words and nothing nebulous like consulting. It's going to be management consulting or HR consulting. It has to be very specific. It's where you're going to put on your buyer's hat and say, if I was a buyer and I was looking for me, what words would I use to search for my business? And that's how you'll come up with keywords. You're also going to list your past performance here. It's important that you actually do this. Many people miss this step, and the government would prefer to see that you have some past performance in there. It helps make a good case for your business in going into government contracting when they're considering using you. So make sure your website is government friendly. And this is a hard one for some people, but the government loves it if your website is friendly. It's government friendly. You actually have a tab that is for government sales, and it's one click for them. They go into that tab and everything they need to know is there. There is a link to your capability statement. There might be testimonials, all your codes, an executive summary of the rest of your website, but it's government friendly. They appreciate the efficiency, and they'll think highly of you if you are able to do a government friendly website. Next slide. These are the government goals. So they do pretty good with small and disadvantaged. Women is touch and go. Hub zone, no. Hardly anyone hits that hub zone goal. And service disabled veteran, it's touch and go. Some make it and some don't. So all of the $500 billion worth of government spend, 23% of it has to go to small business. So it's good to have socioeconomic certification if you qualify. But remember, it's not how you get awarded. It's good to have, but they still base their opinion of you on your value. So always lead with your value. Next slide. I see this question. There currently are no set-asides yet for the LGTB community, but there are people working on it. So stay tuned and be patient. I know there's a lot of lobbying going on and great white papers being written, and we hope that that decision will come soon.
Yeah, Lisa,
So
I'll just come in and just tell everyone,
Yes.
yeah, we're hard at work. It's obviously a major NGLCC priority, and many of our corporate and even government partners have signed on countless letters of support. We're getting there, and it's an important reason for everyone to stay active in there in voting and being a part of the change that we want to see, so that LGBTBE goals are a part of future contracting. Currently, though, we do have several folks, and I know Lisa could speak to this later, about who are using their LGBTBE certification, assuming all the other requirements are met, to get into programs like the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise and other avenues that are for those who fall under socioeconomic disadvantaged communities. But she's right, the top focus, because that's where the top goals on spend are for small businesses. So we'll start there. But for anyone who would like to learn more about how to leverage their LGBTBE certification at the federal or even state and city level, reach out to us at NGLCC and we'll get you connected.
Okay, yes, I mean, we're working on it. I'm happy to see primes taking such an interest in the community as well. It really makes me feel good. So points to ponder. The government buys absolutely everything, but not every government agency or prime buys everything. So it's important to know the difference. You need to know who buys what you sell. When did they buy it? Who did they buy it from? How much did they pay? And when are they going to buy it again? We can help you decide all that. We can help you find this research and find those answers of who you should actually be marketing to. Next slide. So market intelligence. Know your competitors and who's buying from them. So if you know who your competition is, go in and find out who they're selling to. It's easy to find this information. Do some snooping on them. Go into the dynamic small business search. Look at their keywords and their NAICS and PSCs. Look at their website. See what they're doing. It doesn't hurt. That's all Freedom of Information Act. It's transparency. Look at what they're doing and you'll learn from it. Next slide. And then target the right customer. Don't be marketing yourself to somebody who has no plans of buying what you sell. Only target the people who buy what you sell. There's a documented history of the buy and the spend. You need to research them. You need to know everything about them. Go to their website, go to social media, become a subject matter expert on the agency or prime that you want to do business with. Create a capability statement based on their needs. Customize it to the prime and agency you want to market to. And most important, know their regulations and procedures. Each one, I mean, there is the FAR. Everyone does things by the FAR, but they still have their own way of doing things. They have industry days. They have events that they go out and they look for sources. They have their own way of doing market research to find small businesses. So it's best to educate yourself to target that right customer. Next slide. FedBizOps, formerly a standalone site that was easy to use and we all loved it, and now the government has put it into Beta SAM. It is a marketing research tool for you. It only shows contracts greater than $25,000, and it's used to show set-aside opportunities. You can use it to gather information, and they use it to gather information such as a sources sought, requests for information, or draft proposals. So this is a new way to have them post opportunities. Like I said, it used to be standalone and now it's part of Beta SAM. Sources sought is something I want you to understand what that means. That means that buyer is out looking to create a set aside. So they go out there with just some general information to tickle the industry partners. Let's see who comes out and says they're interested in this sources sought. If they're looking to create a woman-owned small business and no women-owned small businesses respond to the sources sought, that group loses the opportunity. If there are no socioeconomic people coming forward and saying they're interested because they need the rule of two, they need at least two, then it goes to total small. If no smalls respond, it goes out to open compete. Small business loses millions upon millions of dollars a year in contract awards because no one responds to sources sought. It's one of the biggest complaints I hear from buyers. No one responds to our sources sought. We had to go out to open compete because we couldn't create the set aside. So please learn more about FedBizOps and how it can be a tool for you moving forward. Also, make sure you are registered in FedBizOps, that you're registered in Beta SAM, because a lot of information here is invisible to you until you are a registered vendor. Next slide. So this is what it looks like when you go to Beta SAM, and you're going to select Search Contract Opportunities. So you see it there in the little print. This is how you get into FBO. Next slide. Well, Beta SAM is the new SAM. Eventually, the regular SAM is going to go away. So yeah, you need to go in and create your information in Beta SAM. Your login.gov will work in Beta SAM. So up in the upper right here, it says sign in. Just sign in, use your login.gov information. It should take you right in here. It's going to ask you for some other things as well, probably to register your business, and it will ask you for some business information. But also on this page, you'll see small business events. It's in the big blue box on the right. All the federal agencies use this to host their industry days and their matchmaking events. So now that everything is virtual, you're able to participate in matchmaking events and industry days all across the country. So make sure you go here and see if your favorite agency has posted opportunities to actually meet with them. So this is, this takes some getting used to. And you're gonna be able to search by keywords, NAICS codes, agency to find opportunities that are out there. It just takes using it. Go in here, play around with it, and see what you can find. And then once you find something that's really cool and you think you're interested in it, start opening up the attachments and reading it. If you're not following along and you need some help, make sure you're reaching out to someone like the PTAC who can help you through answering the solicitation. Next slide. So here's some FAR guidance for small business, IT, service contracting, construction, architect, engineer. These are all some important FAR clauses for you to know. I put the link in here for you so that you're able to go right to acquisition.gov and access the FAR. More on market, next slide, it's okay. So more on market research. I put this in here a couple places because I'm trying to bring home a point. You need to do research on the agencies. You need to be able to feel good about being able to support their mission. Don't pick any more than 5 because this is a lot of work. You're going to create profiles on the 5 that you choose, and you're going to go gung-ho into marketing yourself to them. So one way to do this is the USA.gov. You can find a lot out about now the agencies that are out there, but if you have a good idea of what agencies you want to target, then just go directly to their websites. Next slide. So acquisition forecast, acquisition.gov again. So the government actually forecasts what they're doing. They're required to have, most agencies, a 3-year outlook, defense a 5-year outlook, because they need to know what they're doing and what their spend is going to be so they know how much money to ask for from Congress. So they have to have this 5-year plan with all the items that they hope to procure or build, and also a list of suppliers that they feel would be good fits for those opportunities. So when I was a buyer for Bechtel, our client was the nuclear Navy. That was our only client. And we had to sit down with the Navy once a year and provide our 5-year forecast. And that included small businesses that we felt would be good fits for each one of those procurements. So this is an important thing to know. When I was asked to write a solicitation, I was given a list of suppliers to send it to. So these are all things that you definitely want to look into and know more about. There is a small business preference. They have subcontracting goals and small business plans that they have to meet. And this is something else to find on their websites as well. Next slide. So this is what the buyer wants to know. So when you go to meet that buyer, you're like armed and dangerous because you know what they're thinking. They want to know if you can meet their needs. They don't care that you're WOSB 8A or Hub Zone or Service Disabled Veteran. Can you do the job? Can you solve their problems? Are you responsible and responsive? Those are two very important words. The government, when they go to award, they look for responsible and responsive offers. That's their gold standard. They want to know your background information, contact, name, capability, and capacity. That can be found on your capability statement. Your past performance. And this is why I put socioeconomic status last. It's good for them. It's nice to know. It's icing on the cake, but they first need to know your value. Are you going to be able to perform the job? And oh, by the way, if you're a socioeconomic group, that's great. But they want you leading with your value first. They don't want you coming in to meet them and shaking their hand and saying, I'm an 8A. How can I earn your business? That's not the right way to approach it. You're going to tell them, I've researched your agency. I see you have some procurements forecasted, and I think I would be a good fit. So that's what they want to hear from you. They want to know that you did your due diligence and your homework. They really appreciate that and they respect it. Next slide. A capability statement. I've talked about this a lot. This is a one-page document that will cover these areas: your core competencies, differentiators, past performance, relevant company data, just the facts, and once again, one page. So core competencies, it's what you do best. It's not everything you do, but what you do that would impress the agency or prime you're creating it for. So remember, you're going to have different capability statements. You'll have a general one that you'll put on your website that's downloadable. You'll have one that's designed specifically for perhaps a matchmaking meeting or to hand out if we ever get a chance to go out networking again, or one that you're going to email to an SBLO, Small Business Liaison Officer, upon their request. Your differentiators, people struggle with this. These are objective and quantifiable. So it is just the facts about how you're different. It's not your best in class, state of the art, best team, best value. No, it's not the language they want. They want to know how many, when did you do it, who was served, what were the results. They want to see the facts. It's quantifiable and it's objective, meaning it's factual and can be proven. And the relevant company data means if you're creating a customizable one, you're only going to put the items in that CAPE statement that involves and is interesting to the person you're going to be handing it to. Next slide. So the one on the left is a capability statement template, and we have those available to you at no cost. We also have them in a variety of wonderful colors, but you'll see the different categories. It just gives you a suggestion on how to lay it out. You don't have to do it this way, but just make sure you have those headings and you're covering all that information. Now the one on the right, it's showy enough, but under past performance, they've put in logos, and logos are not allowed to be used unless you have that person's permission from their legal department to use that logo. Past performance is the name of the person you did the work for, a person that you dealt with, their contact information, a brief scope of work, and dollar value. Past performance is very specific and you can't skimp on that. Just think of what the references look like on your resume. It's the same thing. There's no PSC codes on here. And their federal and state certifications, they're not separated good enough. So SBA is good when the graduation date is great. GSA Schedule 70 isn't really a certification, but it's good to have in there. SDB, SBR, I don't know what those are, and that contracting officer may not either. So make sure that you have a good, healthy separation between federal certifications and state certifications, because remember, state does not speak federal, federal does not speak state. So if you're handing this into a federal agency, you might want to just take the state out and concentrate on your federal. I like that it's bullet pointed, but they missed out on differentiators. What makes them stand out from their competition? So that's important to have that in there as well. And anything else that is important, such as your footprint. Are you only wanting to do work in Virginia, or are you able to do work globally? So there's a lot that goes into this document, and it takes time and effort. We're happy to critique them for you and give you some ideas and give you examples as well. Next slide. So marketing. If you have that great idea and you have a special process or unique product, you may want to create a white paper. I see white papers be requested on solicitation. So you want to write as an expert, the subject matter expert, no marketing language. You're not pitching your business here. It's just the facts. You might want to use case studies in your white paper as a reference point. You're going to send it to a target audience like engineers. Engineers love white papers. So if you can get into some engineering groups and find out where they find information, find out if there's a magazine or a newsletter that engineers use, you could use that as a submission for your white paper, and make sure it's free access for you. And it's not so big that it's going to get jammed up in somebody's spam filter. Next slide. Other marketing avenues, networking. You have to network. You've got to get out there. You've got to get your name out there. Even if it's virtually, you've got to be in front of these people. We're planning matchmakers all the time. Please take advantage of them. Meet the buyers. Get feedback from them. Hand in your capability statement. There's workshops. We have training, lots of training. So you'll meet a lot of people just in our training venues, industry days and matchmakers. And I hate that we can't go out live anymore, but it's coming back. Don't lose faith. Check out our calendar events. Check out Fed Biz Ops for agencies posting their industry days and matchmakers, and participate in the government contracting training. It's free. And if we're charging something, it's because the people we've hosted with have costs that we can't help them with. So if they're charging, it's just to cover the basics. No one's here to make a profit. They might have to cover expenses like a speaker, but most of this training is free, and you don't have to be a client to participate. Next slide. Email, very, very important. You have to have an email that is your business. And when you're sending an email, make sure it's not a long narrative, because they will not read it. Short sound bites, bullet points. Give them something to tease them enough to answer back to you. High value content. Long narratives are not going to get read. They're going to shut down after about the third sentence. It's also a way to deliver your white paper in your capability statement. And please, no Gmail, AOL, Yahoo accounts. That is considered unprofessional, and now it's a cyber risk. So with your business, get a domain name for your email that has the name of your business in it, because they will not respect you if you have a personal email address. Next slide. Website. We had a discussion about this earlier. Have a government sales tab, a link to your capability statement or your white paper. Make sure it's easily navigated. Bullet format, no long narratives. Once again, they don't have time to read long narratives. They want to get in, get what they need, and get out. They're in there for a purpose. Find a responsible and responsive small business. You can even put some past performance out there and some testimonials. Next slide. So, social media. Government uses social media. Not only are you able to go to their sites and find out what's happening with them, they're going to go look at you. And they're researching you, they're going to go to your social media. So please, make sure you're on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook. Follow the communities. Follow the agencies and primes you want to know more about. It's a great way to find out what's happening with them, what's coming down the pike, some of their pain points. It's just going to help you do your research. You may even ask them in a matchmaking situation what social media they use. It's a legitimate question. Next slide. Okay, here's a question. Oh, that's from Patricia. Yes. Okay, we'll talk about that, Patricia, because that is legitimate, being blocked by security. So subcontracting requirements. The primes have subcontracting plans, and of course, agencies have small business goals. So a prime has a subcontracting plan. They've made a pledge to the government that they're going to award X amount, percentage of their dollars to the socioeconomic groups on that plan. This is actually tracked by the SBA, and they're held accountable. So they really are anxious and interested in finding a good body of small business vendors that they're able to rely on. They're looking for that responsible and responsive contractor. And market research is hard, so you want to make it easy on them and help them find you. You got to be where you can be found. Next slide, please. So state procurement, don't discount that. If you're a Virginia firm, then you would register an EVA and you would get SWAM, which is Small Women and Minority Certified. State isn't as hard as federal in some instances, and they have a bid match program. So I can't speak for Maryland. I'm not familiar with Maryland, but I know in Virginia, they are very, very small business focused. So check out state procurement as well. Next slide. So local government, this is your own municipality, and not all local government uses their state procurements. Sometimes they just do things their own way. So you need to find out how they procure. I know the County of Fairfax has a great procurement office, and they have very specific ways they like to do business. So go to your local municipality because they have a preference. They want to procure with people who are local. They want to stimulate their local economy. So check that out as well. Next slide. So joint ventures and teaming. It does help you get contracts a little quicker. It helps you, if you don't have bonding, you can team with someone who has bonding. Also, security, facilities clearances. You can get with people who have the same philosophy of the business they're trying to get into. Make sure you get it in writing, and you're able to win more complex and larger products. So Mentor Protege is an SBA program that is definitely worth looking at. If you have a large business that you know of that you feel would be a good mentor to you, then ask them if they'd be interested in Mentor Protege. And please, please, please use your own attorney. If you're exploring joint ventures or Mentor Protege, use your own attorney. Don't share an attorney, because the biggest problems I have seen in joint ventures and Mentor Protege is a single attorney was used and somebody gets left out. Somebody doesn't have an equal right, and problems ensue after that. So make sure you use your own attorney. That's a good rule of thumb. And I bet there are a lot in your network that you could draw upon that know government contracting. Make sure they're familiar with government contracting. Next, please. So some reasons why teaming fails. There could be cultural differences, unclear leadership. It's like, you know, you get two businesses together and both have a a leader, and it just might be different. One might be dictator style and one might be servant leader. It doesn't mix. Also, some people might be putting more money or more time and more effort into the work than the other. There's an unclear distribution. Perhaps they didn't have a comprehensive teaming agreement that calls out all these areas, and how profits are shared, who's signing checks, where do the payments go. So there's a lot to go over in a teaming agreement. So make sure that you are following the teaming agreement. You're using somebody who knows what they're doing to make sure that you are protected in an agreement such as this. Next slide. So in summary, we've gone over a lot of information and it's not even comprehensive. I mean, we just scratched the surface. There's a lot more to learn. So make sure you're eligible, first of all. Make sure that you are actually eligible for government contracting. We covered that in the beginning. You have past performance. Remember, it doesn't have to be governmental. It could be commercial world. Know your business top to bottom, because you might be sitting down with somebody and they're going to start asking you hard questions. You're going to want to know that business, your business, everything about it, what you're capable of and what your capacity is. Have a capability statement, have it ready to go on a moment's notice, and knows who buy what you provide. That is so critical. Who buys what you sell? You have to do the research so that you're not knocking on the wrong doors. Stay on top of all the market forecasts, because that will give you a blueprint for your marketing plan for government, and stay focused. The rule of thumb is you won't win your first contract for 18 to 24 months. So don't get frustrated. Don't quit. We don't want to lose good quality businesses who have those big ideas or those great products. Stay focused and stay on task, because eventually it's going to work for you. Next slide. So this is just a slide on how to find a PTAC. I know some of you might not be Virginia firms, so I put a link here for APTAC, which is our national organization. It will help you find the PTAC nearest to you. And it just states in here what we are capable of doing for you. It's just some of our features and benefits. And we are hosted by DLA, which is Defense Logistics Agency here in Virginia. We're also hosted by George Mason University. So please turn to the resources who will give you the advice at no cost. Do not pay for something that is free to you. Thank you very much. And now we can field some questions.
Lisa, you're amazing. I have been to courses like this that are like 2-3 hours for the same amount of information. You're right, we haven't even scratched the surface, but you got it all in there. And I know when we do part 2 and beyond of this series, hopefully we can have you back with us, because I think a lot of folks have some great questions. I thank you again so much for your time. I wanted to also ask Melissa and Pat and Brian, who are not just subject matter experts, but folks right in the thick of this as buyers and connectors to buyers in the federal and also private space. What did we miss? Is there any takeaway that that we should make sure everyone has before they go? Anything that we want to add to the conversation as we go into some final Q&A? Pat, Brian, Melissa? No, I think everyone's off mute. There we go.
This is Pat. I just what I said earlier, with Lockheed Martin at least, they really are blocking a lot of websites. So it's really important that you provide a capability statement for us, because we can't get out to the websites and look at them.
Great point. And, you know, actually, and Pat brings up a great point. We'll be doing an entire workshop on cybersecurity and understanding how to make sure that you're both prepared and credentialed, but also that you're set up in a way that makes you accessible to everyone who wants to work with you. So stay tuned for that, because that's really helpful information. Thanks, Pat. Brian, I see you come off mute. Anything to add?
No, Pat actually covered what I was gonna say.
Awesome. And Melissa?
Can you hear me?
Hey, there she is.
There I am. Sorry, I was muted and couldn't figure it out. Technical difficulties. So I just wanted to add that when you guys are ready to come to the prime contractors, it's a little bit different than when you're contracting directly with agency. We are liaisons, right? So what our job is to connect you guys as suppliers internally to those decision makers within the company. Me personally, I'm not a decision maker. I just make those connections. So in order for me to effectively make a connection, and I know it's different for all companies, but it's best if you guys know, you guys are experts on what your business does. Be targeted and either come to me with a specific program or a specific RFP that you found in Fed Biz Ops, and then I can take that and look internally in my system, and I can see who the individuals are that are the decision makers in the company that are working that effort, if we're working on it at all. If I don't have a place to go, we retain your information, but we just hang on to it until something down the road might potentially come up. And it could be, you know, like 6 months, it could be 5 years, it could be never. So if you're very targeted and you give us a direction to go, then you have a much better result from us as liaisons in the companies. So just wanted to add that.
That's such a great point. And I want to, Melissa brought up something for, because we do have a lot of new suppliers on the line, and welcome to everyone who's newly certified or recertified. Melissa brought up such a great point that we usually talk about a lot at the NGLCC conference, which is, remember, your supplier diversity professional is your agent. They're there to help you be ready for prime time and hype you up so that when the meeting with the decision maker is available, they're able to vouch for how you've checked all the boxes that Lisa spoke about. They also can be a great conduit to answer one of the questions on our box here, to getting to the primes. Primes can often feel very elusive, and trying to find them on your own can be difficult. So working with our partners can help you identify primes. And as Lisa mentioned, going through freedom of information requests on the various websites can let you know who's spending with who and how to get in touch with them. But I'm curious, from our partners and from Lisa, any recommendations on finding and engaging with primes that you've seen be really useful in the federal space?
I recommend going to the SBA's website. They have every prime contractor listed who has a subcontracting plan.
Great.
And they have the contact person on that plan, and it is a great way to start your market research. You can identify ones that, okay, they already have an effort out there, but it's someone that you can market to. If you see that, oh yeah, that's my wheelhouse, they're already working on something like that, they'll probably be doing it moving forward in the future, at least talk to somebody, and then they can guide you to the right area to go to, like their SBLO. That's
great. Anybody else?
Yeah, and I also, I want to stress that since LGBTBE is not federally recognized currently, do your research into those other 5 socioeconomic categories, and 4 out of the 5 are self-certified at the subcontractor level. I know they just made a change to woman-owned, so now that requires a third party if you're in the woman-owned directly as a prime. I might not be saying that right, but I believe it just happened. So they're self-certified. Read the Code of Federal Regulations, which thoroughly explains what is required to self-certify in those categories. And those do help get a foot in the door, because if we are, to Lisa's point, if we have a subcontracting plan on a program and we are lacking meeting one of those goals, we need to find suppliers in one of those categories to backfill, to go and try to attain those goals. So the categories do help. Do your homework, know the FAR. The FAR is our Bible, and the Code of Federal Regulations as well. So yeah, just know that that's what we work off of. Those are our requirements.
Such a great point. And most importantly, as you see on the slide here, reach out for help, whether it's the NGLCC Supplier Diversity Team, which does regular trainings and workshops on things like capability statements and how to pitch and present your business, to direct connections to any of our partners here or throughout the NGLCC network. We're here to help you. So let us help you get as best positioned for all of this as possible. I think we have time for one or two more questions. If anybody else has one, feel free to chime in either in the Q&A box or come off mute and say hello yourself. Give it a second if anybody wanted to. Excellent. Seeing none at the moment, we'll always take more. You can reach out to us at Supplier Diversity at NGLCC, or the same for either webinars or education at nglcc.org. All roads will lead to the team who's here to help you. But I want to again thank Melissa and Pat and Brian for helping organize today's event, and to Lisa for being such a great facilitator. We thank you so, so, so much. This helped a lot of people understand whether or not federal contracting is right for them. And like we said, the next installment, which we'll be advertising very shortly, is yes, federal contracting is right for me. Now what? So stay tuned, everyone. We'll be sharing that information with you. And again, we'll be putting this presentation along with the links and resources we've mentioned today on our website, and you'll all receive a link to it via email. Again, thank you. We would really, really appreciate your time and enthusiasm today. And we are in the business of helping you get more business. So don't be strangers, and let the NGLCC and our partners know what we can do for you. Again, Pat, Brian, Melissa, thank you. Lisa, you rock. And to Team NGLCC and all of our suppliers on the line, we're so grateful you're here. Everyone have a good, safe weekend, and we'll talk real soon. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Bye. Thanks, Jonathan.
Yes, thank you.